We are on the left coast, which the locals will tell you is the best coast. Long Beach, California is the venue. It's the 50th time that there's been race cars around the streets. And what a circuit this is. Down the front stretch at East Shoreline Drive. I didn't see a front straight there for once because it isn't. Heavy braking area into turn one is an action area. We've seen a litany of quality drivers running on there in the early sessions, snaking downhill towards turn 8 and East Seaside before the run down to turn 9 and another overtaking opportunity and another opportunity to get things wrong before the slowest corner in IMSA. That's the hairpin at turn 11. Some of the cars even have to have a slightly different steering setup to get all the way round them. Hello everybody and welcome along to the Ford Performance Global Broadcast Centre. John Hindorf and Ryan Marine with you on a gorgeous California afternoon where it's just after 5 o'clock in, can we call it early evening? I think we probably can. And at the moment it is 63 Fahrenheit on the air and in the track. That's 17 Celsius across the board, and we are set up for some action. 15 minutes of qualifying to come for the extended GTD field this weekend, and then the same for the 11 cars at the front in the prototypes, the GTD. Ryan Marine, stories abound. Cars that will be losing their best qualifying lap because they caused red flags earlier. And at the top of those is the man who was fastest last in the last part of free practice in GTD. What a story for Robert Wickens and the Corvette of DXDT.
Well, it's been a dream comeback story to this point, that's for sure, as Robert Wickens set the fastest time in GTD in practice 2 just a couple of hours ago. We're driving with hand controls, of course. His first time racing in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Really excited to see what he can do. I know he was thrilled with the result there in that practice, but this is where it really counts going qualifying. We talked about it a lot during the practice coverage, didn't we? How difficult it can be to pass. It's also a short race, so you don't have much time to make your way to the front of the field, which makes qualifying all that much more important.
So 16 cars, as I mentioned, some additions and some significant ones as well, with the 177, that's AO Racing and Rexy, stepping back from GTD Pro to go GTD Racing in this one, which we believe will be a one-off and a special pairing, not their usual drivers.
Quite right. Lawrence Van Thor, the star, of course, for Porsche Penske Motorsport, part of the winning driver lineups at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, as well as the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. But stepping back into a GT here for this weekend, he's not part of the full season IMSA team, focusing primarily this year on the World Endurance Championship, and joined by the youngster Johnny Edgar, LMP2 champion in the European Le Mans Series a year ago, who has a connection to AO Racing through that. I think you look at this lineup, John, and you say, yeah, this is an awfully stout pairing. I think the only question mark was about Johnny and his relative lack of experience in a Porsche, but he was right on it, wasn't he, in practice already? And that pairing, that team, they are quality. That should be a car to watch for sure.
Another addition is the second of the Lexus, RCF GT3s. The 12 car is there, as it always is in GTD. That's the full season car. But we've got an addition with a strange number as well, the 89. 89, I believe it was the first year of Lexus, if I'm not mistaken, 1989. RCF GT3 again for that team. And that again is, they're just, adding another strategic possibility. What is the thinking behind this?
Well, I think it's simply the fact that they've got two GT3 spec cars that they would like to run, but with no GTD Pro here, that means they had to retrofit one of the lineups. And so with a little tweaking and knowing they've got a great stable of drivers to draw from, Aaron Tielitz, Frankie Montecalvo, they're teaming up this year in that additional GTD entry. And we've seen the additional car from Vassar Sullivan win in the past. So certainly don't discount them. Those are two drivers that know the car extremely well. The team knows how to get it done here in Long Beach, and I think that could be a pairing that you're going to have to factor with before the day is done tomorrow.
Play here from behind our voices, the rumbles and slightly higher pitch noises of the V8s, V6s and flat sixes as they roll out onto the circuit, and everyone bar 3 cars out at the moment. The 2 Vassar Sullivan cars have stayed at home for the moment, and so has the Turner Motorsport BMW. And as I say that, Patrick Gallagher turns out of the pit lane in the number 96 car. So here's who's out at the moment. Parker Thompson has taken out the Vassar Sullivan number 12. Ori Fadani in the AWA Corvette number 13. Sheena Monk, bronze category, bronze cup driver as well in the 021 Triarsi car. The 27 is Tom Gamble. Seth Lucas in the 32 Courtney AMG. Manny Franco in the 34 Conquest Ferrari. Robert Wickens, as you might expect, fastest man in free practice, but will lose his best fastest lap, most fast lap, quickest lap, that was the word I was looking for, in the 36 Corvette for causing a red flag. Danny Formal in the 45 Wayne Taylor Lamborghini, they had very little running in FP2. Russell Ward in the 57 Winward, the Gradient 66 is Jensen Olsman, the Ford Mustang. Didn't talk about that too much actually in the free practice session. Brendan Areeb for Inception's Ferrari in the 70. Misha Goikberg for Forte Racing. He'll lose a lap as well because he caused a red flag in the 78 Lamborghini. Frankie Montecalvo and Patrick Gallagher in the 89 Lexus and the 96 BMW. Adam Adelson, new owner of Wright Motorsports, in the 120 Porsche, and it is Johnny Edgar. Oh, well, I'm not sure because he hasn't come out. We're just waiting for that 177. No, he has come out. It was Johnny Edgar. He's just gone back in again and comes to a halt. And right now, they are changing tyres on that car, and that's normally not allowed in qualifying. Only for the GTP cars can you change tyres and indeed touch the car at all during the qualifying. And I have to say, I haven't seen any change in the regulations in the supplementaries for this. I apologise if I have missed that, and now I will have to go back and flick through that. I'll do that between the sessions. We did get a message from race control saying teams may not touch cars, but they are allowed to be tugged back to the impound. That's towed back with the tug. And the drivers must wait to be instructed to exit cars after each session. The command will come from race control. So not sure what was going on there down at AO Racing. It's not as if they don't know the regulations. They are regulars in this championship. Times that we are looking for, well, this morning we got down to about an 18, and then we got to a low 17 with Robert Wickens, 1:17, that is. The race lap record here is a 17.8, I think, sorry, a high 17 we got to, and Robert got to a 17.9 in free practice in GTD. So let's see how far we get down. 25s at the moment. What I'm interested to see here, Ryan, is how people bring these, how the drivers bring these Michelin tyres up to temperature and pressure, how they use them in this 15-minute session, because obviously it has to be a bronze driver who qualifies.
Yes, if you have a bronze in the lineup, you could also have a silver as part of a GTD lineup as well. It's not a bronze mandated class, but it is the lower graded driver that will be qualifying, as we see in the session here so far. And yeah, look, I think typically we do see it takes a couple of laps to build everything into the right window. You put down a little bit of a banker lap just in case that there's any kind of stoppage and we don't get to run the full session. If there's multiple stoppages, sometimes we could see that happen, especially on a busy weekend like this in Long Beach. But that said, typically it does come down to those final couple of flyers, and we'll start to see those numbers drop in terms of the lap times. I think an indication that perhaps they're not there yet is the amount of weaving that we're seeing on the straightaways, and that would let us know that these drivers at the moment don't feel like those tires are completely into the window, and they'll have telemetry to tell them that. They'll know what to be looking for, and they'll be slowly building those up to get them in the exact right spot to go on a couple of push laps at the end of the session.
Still cars weaving around as they head from 8 down to 9 on East Seaside Way, including the Conquest Ferrari number 34 with Manny Franco on board. Still no sign of the Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini in the pit lane. That car ground to a halt very early on in the final free practice session. Trent Hinman behind the wheel of it. He managed to get it pretty close to one of the cutouts just on the exit of turn 5, actually, where the number 57 AMG is just coming through now, which has got Russell Ward on board. Good start to the season for them as well. They really had a fabulous start to the season this time last year, and it pretty much sealed the championship for them. Not quite on a par with that this year, but they come into this weekend certainly as one of the favourites for not just this race but the championship. But they've got plenty of competition in this category. Coming through turn 5 in just a second. We'll wait for the sound of the Aston Martin. There it goes now. Tom Campbell behind the wheel there. Parker Thompson down to a 19. Patrick Gallagher down to a 19 for the Lexus and the BMW. And Adam Adelson also in the 1:19 at the moment, but there's at least another couple of seconds to go, and we are halfway through the session, Ryan, already. This fast 15 minutes is an absolute mind bender for the drivers. They've got to have full concentration.
It flies by and it makes you execute. There's not a lot of time if you make a mistake on your flyer to gather it back up and try and go for another, especially with as long as it seems to be taking to bring everything up into the window. As you pointed out, still quite a big gulf in the lap times we're seeing here compared to what we saw in practice, and you would think these cars are maybe a bit more trimmed out or in a special qualifying spec getting ready to try and go for pole here today. Did want to cover off the 45, the Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini. It does look like it did an out lap and came right back in. I'm showing that It did a lap right over 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so that's about a minute plus off the pace. So you mentioned they had the issue in the first practice, and I wonder if maybe it's some kind of niggling technical issue that they're still trying to deal with.
Danny Formal took that installation lap or whatever it was and has come back into the pit lane. Parker Thompson goes through down to an 18, and Russell Ward goes to the top now in 18.3. This is more like it. This is more like it. They will be running slightly lower fuel levels than they were earlier on, possibly taking a couple of clicks out of the rear wing around here. I'm not sure what. There's two quite long straights. Well, places where you don't brake, where you're on the power for a long time. The 96 Liquid Moly BMW on one of them at the moment. The run from 8 to 9 down Seaside, East Seaside, underneath the bridge. Neither of those long runs are dead straight, and they all have heavy braking at the end of them. So there's time to be gained and lost. I'm not sure really what difference it would make other than a little bit lower fuel loads, which is weight, and weight is speed. You have to accelerate speed, brake speed, brake weight and turn weight, and that costs you dynamics on the car. The laps come quickly here. Already 6 have been turned, and Parker Thompson for Vassar Sullivan Racing in for them the right car. Remember, there are points for qualifying. That's their season-long GTD number 12 car, 18.2. So this is getting closer to what we saw in the afternoon free practice session. And if you're thinking, come on, Hindhoff, what you're talking about, it will have been better track conditions. The temperatures are almost identical, air and track as to what we saw in FP2. We're a little bit warmer than FP1. What's different, of course, is we've had a long IndyCar session directly before this, and there's different rubber being laid down on the racing line, and that might just make a half a second, maybe 4/10 difference in absolute lap times. But we are getting down to business, and Parker Thompson still leads it by just a scant 1/10 of a second, Ryan.
Got confirmation from some folks, some friends at IMSA, about the 45 Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini. That car slowed exiting turn 8 and came to the pit lane, and Danny Formal was allowed to leave the car. So that would indicate to me that they're not going to make it back out on track, and they'll start no better than 16th.
Clip on the wall for, I think that was the 34 Manny Franco driven car on the left rear. He's white-walled the Michelin tyre as he came out of turn number 8 last time around, and he's a little more conservative this time. Actually, it must have been further back round the track. It was coming out the fountain area where he white-walled the tyre, I've just realised, because there was no advertising on the wall, and that's a decent run for him, and it moves him up to 4th place. A game of inches. If you're not close to the wall, you're not putting in your lap times, and he's chasing a quick car at the moment in Johnny Edgar, who's up to 2nd last time around. Russell Ward in the Mercedes 57 is 3rd, 4th Manny Franco, as we mentioned, 5th BMW. So how about this? Lexus, Porsche, Mercedes, Ferrari, BMW in the top 5, all different manufacturers. Then it's Porsche, Aston Martin, Lexus, Corvette with Robert Wickens on an 18.9. So that's about a second slower than he went earlier today. Then the Lamborghini of Misha Goikberg. Both of those drivers I've mentioned will lose their best lap. That will be taken away from them, and that we'll see that happen on the screen, on the timing screen from Al Kamel. And if you want to follow along, by the way, if you're at the track or watching or listening on IMSA Radio or IMSA TV, then you can get the IMSA timing up if you just go to IMSA Al Kamel or Al Kamel IMSA, put that into your search engine, and it will pop up. Johnny Edgar to the top. Well, let's not worry about him knowing Porsches. Rexy has roared on the streets of Long Beach, a 1:17.9. That's as quick as pretty much anything we've seen today, Ryan, and that's impressive from the young Brit.
It is just a fraction off of Robert Wickens' time from that practice earlier today, which is the best we've seen so far. Speaking of Robert, he's on a good lap, personal best in each of the first 2 sectors, and he's coming to the line now.
The blue and green car moves up to 5th position with an 18.4. He's chipping away, and there's still time left here. The beauty of these Michelin tyres is that they do give performance all the way through the 15 minutes, and if they are slightly losing performance, then the car is getting lighter at the same time. There's a trade-off to be had there, and to the top, Lexus with Vassar Sullivan Racing, a 1:17.877 for Parker Thompson. He's pulled that one out, and he squeaks, just over half a tenth, 60 milliseconds between 1st and 2nd. And the top 3 within a 0.062 of a second, and the Korthoff car has gone off. That is Seth Lucas, who is at turn 8 at the end of East Seaside. And at the moment we stay in green with just 45 seconds to go. This is interesting. Race control have left it green. Will there be a yellow flag down there? Because really you shouldn't be able to improve if there is a yellow flag in that position. Here comes Wickens to the line again in the Mobil 1 back machine with those Bosch hand controls. I think he lifted in the middle sector. What was a 1:19.6, but is he going for it again now? 17.877. Patrick Gallagher, 18.2, has just gone to 4th, and there's improvements throughout the field here. But this will be last laps for everybody now as the checker is being thrown and Adam Adelson sees it first. Russell Ward pits. There are still opportunities out there though, Ryan.
Yep, there are. The majority of the field still on fast laps. Manny Franco just did personal best in sectors 1 and 2. Parker Thompson, who's already the fastest, just had a personal best first sector. So there's still a number of drivers pushing, but there's traffic to contend with here as well.
Very close between the gradient number 66 Silver Mustang and the dark blue Aston Martin of Harter Racing as they came through turn 8. It looks like the Aston is peeling into the pits. Yes, they are. That's Tom Gamble. Looks like he'll be no better than third, but I think he'll be reasonably happy with that as they come to the line. No further improvements. No, as I say that, Robert Wiggins comes through and bumps himself up onto the inside of row 3. And there are still other cars to come through. Sheena Monk isn't quite finished yet. And she comes through with a Triazi green Ferrari. Does not improve her time. Frankie Montecalvo does, and he's now in 6th. So Russell Ward bumped down to 7th and the inside of row 4, and that's everybody who's going to put the time in. So provisionally and subject to any post qualifying checks, I don't see anything for the 177 that changed tyres. So I will check back through the regs in between sessions while Ryan is talking. So Parker Thompson on the front row. It's not a full split grid and 2 safety cars when we start tomorrow, Saturday race, remember, but there will be a word with the GTD drivers, and Parker Thompson will have his side of the grid as pole position. Even though there's an odd number of GTP cars, he's not expected to line up alongside the 11th car on the grid. So it'll be Parker Thompson and Johnny Edgar for Vassar Sullivan Lexus, and AO Racing Porsche on row 1, with Aston Martin and Harter Racing Tom Gamble in the 27. He's got Manny Franco for company in the Ferrari 296. Row 2, and on row 3, Patrick Gallagher and Frankie Montecalvo for BMW and Lexus. Russell Ward and Robert Wiggins. There's the penalty being applied for Robert Wiggins, so that's his 2nd best lap for Robert. So Mercedes and Chevrolet Corvette on row number 4. Adam Adelson and Seth Lucas on row 5 for Porsche and Mercedes, Wright Motorsport and Korthoff. Then it's the AWA Chevrolet in 13th position for Ori Fadani and the best of the Bronze Cup drivers. Misha Goikberg, who also lost a lap, is now in 12th position for the Lamborghini of 40 and the number 78 machine. Then it's Inception's Ferrari, Brendan Arieb, and Gradient's Jensen Altsman in the Mustang. Jensen will not be happy with that. He's been putting a lot of effort into his qualifying in the last season or so, and he'll not be happy with being down in 14th. Sheena Monk and Triazi 021 Ferrari will have Danny Formal alongside on row number 8. So that's how they stand. They are waiting to be told, the drivers are waiting to be told they can get out the car, and then the cars cannot have anything done to them other than being towed with the tyre tug back to the paddock where the post-qualifying inspections will go on. What do you make of that then, Ryan? It's Lexus, Porsche, Aston, Ferrari, BMW, and then Lexus is the first double. So Frankie Montecalvo up into 6th in the additional car, but 5 different manufacturers in the top 5 and less than 0.4 of a second between them.
Exactly what I was going to say regarding the diversity of that top 5, as well as just how close and how competitive it is, which is what we've come to expect from GT racing in the IMSA paddock. But a couple of things stand out aside from that. Number 1, this is a 2nd consecutive Long Beach pole for Parker Thompson. He won from pole in the GTD class here last year. It was one of 3 poles that he scored last season, so perhaps a bit of history repeating itself, or at least rhyming. one year to the next. And we talked about Vassar Sullivan being a team that knows how to get it done, and that Lexus certainly has been strong on this street course in the past. So impressive stuff there. Johnny Edgar missing out on pole by just 6 thousandths of a second. Really impressive in his Porsche debut, racing in the GTD class. Typically he's an LMP2 driver for AO Racing in IMSA in some of the longer races, as well as overseas in other championships, but really strong for him. And I think with Lawrence Vanthor alongside, no reason to believe that car won't be in the mix to go for the win. And I would also say Tom Gamble caught traffic on that last lap. He was only 2 thousandths of a second off of the front row, just 2 thousandths of a second off of P2 and Johnny Edgar, and 62 thousandths away from pole. So he might be ruining a little bit of traffic there in what might have been a second pole on the day for Heart of Racing. They got the pole for the SRO race coming up tomorrow also with Gray Newell. So they're pretty happy, I think, with the performance of their Vantages. We'll see their Valkyrie on track in just a few moments. And then you have to feel for Danny Formal, who didn't get a chance to show that car's speed. And unfortunately, John, that's just the way the season has gone for Wayne Taylor Racing. We talked during the practice show about the difficulties that their GTP class cars have had, but it's been true as well for the GTD car. Danny Formal and Trent Hedman finishes this year of 10th and 14th. They need a lot of work, I'm afraid, to get back in the championship picture here.
Yeah. They might have to play something a little bit tricky. We do have in the race, in this category, in GTD, there is a minimum driver time that the bronze drivers have to do, and that is 35 minutes minimum drive time for any driver, actually. 65 minutes maximum. And if you're in the Truman Aitken Award in either of the classes, there's nobody in the GTPs that are, but in GTD there are. It is 35 minutes as well. So that effectively is your bronze driver there, particularly for any of the drivers who are in the all bronze driver cars. That's the Bronze Cup. There's 3 Bronze Cup there. And you are allowed to change your tyres. Thank you. I was trying to find the bit of the regulations in the SSRs, so that was all right. That was a scrub in of some tyres then, I suspect, for the 177 for AO Racing, or they did, surely they didn't swap them around side to side. Well, maybe they would have put something on the working side. Seemed to work, whatever they did, just 0.060 away from Parker Thompson's time, and then just 0.002, as Ryan was saying, back to the 3rd place. Incredibly, the top 3 within, let's call it half a tenth of a second. Get out your phone now, put it onto your stopwatch, and try and stop it as quick as possible, and see if you can get 0.0, not 0.62, 0.062 of a second. And that's how fast, and that's how close the top 3 are in qualifying. The first, effectively, row and a half. And if we go back to half a second, that takes in the top 7, and that's on a 77-second lap. And the top 7 are within half a second. That's pretty tight, as you might imagine, round a just under 2-mile circuit. There are some teams there who will be wanting to come forward, and there'll be some scratching of heads and some talking of strategies when they retire for their debrief after this one. But now we turn the streets of Long Beach over to the thoroughbreds, and the cars that have been built with one thing in mind. Their whole raison d'etre is to go very fast for a very long time, up to and including 24 hours, of course, at places like Daytona and Le Mans. And these cars have a set of regulations that means there is no minimum amount that has to be built. They're not based on street cars. They are a purpose-built, purpose-designed and purpose-built machine. And that's why we call them prototypes. And we have the green flag for 15 minutes as they are rolling out of the pit lane now. And BMW have bossed the qualifying sessions of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship in season 2025, Ryan. And it's not just the BMWs, it is a BMW and a driver who has bossed that particular qualifying discipline.
Yes, Dries Vanthoor has been the qualifying king to start 2025 at IMSA. This is his first time coming to Long Beach, and he'll be looking to try and go for 3 poles on the bounce. Pole at Daytona, pole at Sebring, but a much different circuit here. That said, he's been the guy everyone's been chasing through the bulk of the practice sessions in the build-up to qualifying here. We know his single lap pace is good. We've seen both BMWs feature at the very front of the field in practice, so if you're looking for a favorite to go for pole, it might just be Dries, but that said, it's so hard to make it 3 for 3 in a field that's this strong, and there are a lot of really good drivers and very top-level teams that are waiting to try and knock Dries off of his perch.
You're going to have to be good today to do that from the pace that we saw in both of the free practice sessions, and the BMWs were trading faster slaps in FP2. Temperature holding up very nicely, no change from the GTD qualifying. Give you the other drivers in the 2 Porsches. It's Mathieu Jaminet and Nick Tandy in the 6 and 7, the 2 Porsche Penske Motorsports. Philippe Albuquerque in the number 10 Cadillac. They were looking for a bit of pace, it seemed, earlier on this afternoon. Ross Gunn will take the qualifying for the Aston Martin Valkyrie from Heart of Racing, the number 23 car. Dries Vanthoor, no surprise there, in the 24. Sheldon von der Linde in the 25, the 2 RLL BMWs. Jack Aitken was the fastest Cadillac driver earlier on this afternoon, and he'll take the wheel of the 31 Whelen Cadillac. Louis Delatraz in Wayne Taylor Racing's at number 40 Cadillac. Tom Blomqvist for the Acura number 60. Timon van der Helm for the Singleton Porsche from Private Ears. A couple of people sent me some messages at IMSA Radio about in the break, where was the Proton Mustang sampling car. That was at one stage was only meant to do Daytona, and then it turned up for Sebring, and we hope we'll see that car at some of the longer races. I think that's a bit of a TBA at the moment. And the second of the Acuras, by the way, is Nick Yellerly, and he is therefore in the number 93 car. Now, you can change tyres, as we've said. It's been a rule for the GTPs for quite a while. It's a newish rule for the GTDs, which still catches me out as a screaming Aston Martin goes by the start-finish line. That V12 derived from the road car engine, and believe it or not, that road car engine is almost, well, it's half as powerful again as the race car because of the regulations. Puts out well over 1,000 horsepower in road car trim, and it still meets Euro 6 emissions regulations. Now that's the clever people at Aston Martin, and particularly at Cosworth for you. Hello to everyone from Cosworth, who I'm sure will be tuned in. Busy weekend for them. So who's setting the pace, first of all? Would it surprise you to know, Ryan, that it's a BMW?
not even a little bit.
Together there. No, almost a coming together there between 2 Cadillacs, because we've got the Dex Imaging number 10 car with Philippe Albuquerque, who was still warming his tyres up as Jack Aitken wanted to be going a little bit quicker. I think he was out a lap earlier, so they might be on a different warm-up strategy. If there wasn't contact there coming through effectively turn 10 into turn 11, it was very, very close indeed. So everybody improving on each lap now, and now we'll find out who's done the tyre preparation right. The cars who are in clear air, Nick Tandy has just come back out into clear air. Sheldon von der Linde, who's gone down to a 14.6, he's in clear air at the back end, at the start of the lap. And leading a little gaggle of cars is the number 60 Tom Blomqvist car. Right, was there a touch? Cadillac on Cadillac. You don't want to see that if you are one of the executives or leading actually almost both sides. Left front to right rear, and before that, right front to left rear. That's heart in mouth moment. Now let's see what Nick Tandy can do with a little bit of clear track. Well, I say clear track, but in fact, he's right behind his teammate now as they go through turn 6. So are the two Porsches going to do a little bit of drafting? As now we're down into some serious times for more than just the BMW, Ryan.
We're getting close. The fastest time in practice 2, it's the fastest time we've seen so far this weekend. Dries Vanthoor did a 1:12.2, so we got a little ways to go, still half a second off in terms of what Sheldon van der Linde just did, but we're definitely approaching that threshold. So let's watch and see. We saw the GTD cars get close to and then ultimately just slightly under the best practice times. We'll see if that holds true here in GTP as well.
A lot of light colours on my timing screen. That means people are going quickly. Air temperature has actually gone up a degree since we threw the green flag. Now back up to 18 Celsius and 64 degrees Fahrenheit on the track as well. 8 minutes to go. Clear air might be what you're looking for here. Coming round to the end of the lap, Nick Yellerly turning right at the end of Seaside. And he's got to run to the final corner with one of the BMWs closing in on it. Vanthoor goes down to a 12.2. 1 minute 12.2. And he's at the top, but not for long because his teammate's gone just about a tenth quicker. 1:12.198. The BMWs are at it again, Ryan.
That's the fastest time we've seen this weekend by 3/1000ths of a second. Sheldon van der Linde right now with the bragging rights in that BMW intra-team battle, but others still with plenty of time, still 7 minutes on the clock.
Hello to Jesse and everybody who's in Grandstand 36 listening to us on the very effective public address system around the 1.98 mile circuit, and hats off to everybody involved in putting this street circuit together. I know it's a temporary circuit, but it kind of blows my mind because it never really looks that temporary. I know there's concrete barriers, but my goodness me, what an effort there is to put this event on every year. And thank you very much indeed to those that make it happen, and particularly to our colleagues on the audio side, both in London, Concord and at the track, to make sure that you can listen to our call of this qualifying session and indeed the race tomorrow. Here's the Aston to the line for Harter Racing. No improvement there for Ross Gunn, but they again are just gathering information. It does sound glorious though, that V12, doesn't it?
And that's their best time of the weekend. In practice 1, they were running high 115s. In practice 2, it was mid 114s, and now he's down in the high 113s. So that's progress. That's what they're looking for in this still very early stage of the development of this beautiful looking and, more importantly, beautiful sounding Valkyrie.
Mathieu Jaminet is a little bit off everybody else in terms of his tyre prep. So at the moment, in fact, he's just actually put in a time that's put him into 11th, but it's the first lap that he's done on his 6th lap around, but he has had one run down the pit lane, so he's scrubbed a set of tyres in. That was the first lap quicker than Parker Thompson's pole time in GTD. So there's time to come there. Where is his teammate? 13. Porsches are not at the front at the moment. Vanthoor to the top and continues this extraordinary run of qualifying, a 1:11.5, and that, by some margin, is the quickest time we've seen on the streets of Long Beach for IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship this weekend. And there was a little nudge on the wall for the Tom Blomqvist-driven Acura, the number 60, as he turned into turn 5. He was trying to open the corner out by scraping down the left-hand side concrete blocks. But what a time for Vanthoor, the first into the 11s, but not the only now, because his teammate's there as well, Ryan.
Yeah, Sheldon van der Linde came across the line not too far behind. It came close. He got in the 111s also, but still a quarter of a second off. He actually has the overall best middle sector. He just turned in the overall best first sector, though, on the subsequent lap, so it's not done yet. I think it might be between the two BMWs, but which one starts on pole is still very much up for grabs.
Well, it would be an extraordinary feat if Dries Vanthoor, on 3 fundamentally different circuits at Daytona, Sebring and Long Beach, could capture pole position at the start of the season. Haven't done all of the records. It's a very unusual occurrence for a single driver to have 3 poles in a row at the start of a season. Quite often the teams alternate their drivers between qualifying duties, and that plays a part in it. But clearly Dries Vanthoor has got the measure of this BMW as Mathieu Jaminet. I said watch out for him. He's popped up to 3rd place now, but still in the 12s. The two BMWs, a quarter of a second between them, and then another half a second back to the next best car, which is the Porsche Penske 963 of Jaminet. The BMWs are making a statement here, Ryan.
They are, as they've done in practice and in qualifying with some regularity this year. But as we talked about, we're waiting to see that translate into a good race result. But that said, here maybe more than any other place on the circuit, except maybe Detroit, you could probably put in that conversation as well. You need to start up front to have a really good shot at going for the win. Some strange things can happen. Wow, that was close again for the Porsche. But anyway, qualifying here,
Jaminet.
super important. Yeah, Jaminet.
I have not seen a downforce prototype like this being flat drifted as it was through the middle and exit of turn 5 and then through the middle of an exit of turn 8. Not for a very long time, not since Marco Werner was throwing the open top Audi R8 prototype round the streets of Trois-Rivières in the old American Le Mans Series days. He was flicking it around like a go-kart and scraping the wing end plates off the wall on the exit of the corner. Extraordinary stuff from Jaminet. Actually, at turn 8 he was just a little bit too tail happy there, but turn 5, that was pretty much perfect. Didn't improve that time around, but again at turn 8 he's as close as he needs to be to the wall. Check that at turn 5. His teammate is at turn 8. That is Nick Tandy, who, by the way, has just moved up into 4th. So it's BMW, Porsche, Acura, Cadillac for your top 8. Feels like Noah's Ark on the streets of Long Beach as far as qualifying is concerned, proving that all of those teams are turning out 2 very, very similar performance-based cars.
It is interesting to see, especially when you are comparing with the Cadillacs. This is actually the best relative to the Wayland Engineering car that the Wayne Taylor cars have looked, with 2 cars running in close succession right there. Not where they would like to be, though, especially on this track, which has been a Cadillac track historically, but right now it's not the way it's been playing out.
Oh, and don't you think Heart of Racing, if you'd said to them, oh, now who's that who's just swiped the wall? That was the 93, do you think yellowly driven Acura? Yeah, turn 1. Yeah, that was a bigger hit than it looked actually on the right front. I was just about to say, as Dries Vanthoor pits, if you'd said to Ian James and Heart of Racing, you can be a 10th and a bit off Wayne Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque, the Cadillac, in qualifying. He'd have taken the hands off for that. Nick Tandy's just gone up into third, by the way. So it's 24-25, 7-6, 60-93. Jack Aitken staying out as the checkered flag is out. Now, I wonder if Tom Blomqvist will pit at the end of this, or whether he's going to come, he's coming to finish the lap. Did the 93 take the line? He did, but didn't improve. Very slow lap. Here comes Blomqvist, doesn't improve, stays fifth. He's next across the line. It will be Jack Aitken. Whelen Cadillac, a 1:12.5 to his name. And a 1:12.512. Slightly improved time. Actually, Blomqvist's time's just come up as an improvement as well. As Tymon van der Helm leapfrogs the Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac and pushes the JDC Miller Porsche up into 9th position. Well, somebody's going to have to tell me this, but when was the last time anybody did 3 poles in a row in the top class of IMSA racing? And when did they do it? At the start of the season, because Dries Vanthoor has just absolutely nailed it and has a hat-trick of pole position starts for BMW M Team RLL, and by a quarter of a second, which what we've seen during the early running here, that's a more significant margin than it might appear, Ryan.
That is a substantial gap to his teammate. Now, Sheldon had a bad middle sector on his fast lap, so there's probably a similar amount of pace in the 25 that we've seen in the 24, but you compare those two BMWs to everyone else, only Nick Tandy, by the skin of his teeth, was able to get into the 111s. So that shows that the BMWs on raw pace, 1 lap pace, they seem to have the field covered this weekend.
I'm just already salivating at the thought of Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet, Nick Yellerly and Tom Blomqvist bearing down on the 2 BMWs into the first corner, where we know there's been incidents in the past and where you cannot get 2 cars side by side, and somebody's going to have to give way because somebody will get a better start than the others. It will be as simple as that. Here's how they will line up again, subject to any times that have to be lost. That should have been done by now. Yes, it has. And any post-race technicals that come up, let's hope there isn't, but if there are, we'll bring them to you in our Michelin Countdown to Green. It's the 2 BMWs, and Dries Vanthoor, 3 for 3 on pole position starts. A 1:11.5 from a 1:11.7 of his teammate. 24 from 25, the 2 BMWs on the front row, locking it out for Team RLL. And it's Porsche and Porsche on row 2. The 7 from the 6, Nick Tandy from Mathieu Jaminet for Porsche Penske Motorsport in the 963s. Then the 2 Acura ARX 06s, 93 from 60, Nick Yellerly, perhaps going to improve on his final lap, but clipped the wall quite hard in turn 1. It'll be Nick and Tom then, 93 and 60 on row 3. Row 4, Jack Aitken for Cadillac, the best of the Cadillacs, but by only half a second this time, and he was only half a tenth or so away from being a row further forwards, and actually a tenth would have given him 2 places, Jack Aitken. Philippe Albuquerque is in 8th position, and the last full row of prototypes will be Tymon van der Helm for Porsche and JDC Miller Motorsport in the 85 yellow car, and Wayne Taylor's number 40 Cadillac for Louis Delatraz, with Ross Gunn in the end 4 tenths away from the back of the Wayne Taylor car. They're both improved on their final laps, but they'll start in 11th position. And then there'll be a little bit of gap before it's Parker Thompson who'll start in pole position for Vassar Sullivan Racing in the GTDs. That time set a little bit earlier on a 1:17.877. Ryan Marine, I know you've got to dash and do some more work and leave us in the Ford Performance Global Broadcast Centre. Some thoughts about what you've seen and what that will bring us tomorrow for this 100-minute race?
I think we're in for a great one, John. I really do. The strategy element of it still needs to play itself out. We know who might have the fastest cars, but the fastest cars don't always win these races, especially here at Long Beach, where in the past some teams have been able to make some strategic master plays that have netted big results. So we'll be on the lookout for that tomorrow. Amazing story still what Robert Wickens has done to be fastest in the second practice and to start right in the middle of the pack despite losing his best lap in that session. He's right there amongst it. That's going to be a fun story to chronicle all day tomorrow as well.
I asked to be told when we last had 3 at the start of a season, and our Genesis Magma racing driver, Pipo Durrani, did Daytona, Sebring and Long Beach back to back as well. People, thank you for tuning in, and good luck on what's going on. I need to have a little bit of an update on the Genesis Magma situation, but I know things are moving along quite nicely. So there's the answer. Pipo Durrani, who in I think that was the championship winning season as well as those 3. People can correct me if I'm wrong. So Dries, you might be onto something here if they can convert tomorrow. Saturday race here. Join us for 100 minutes of action. We'll have our Michelin countdown to green with the Porsche keys to the race. I'm John Hindhaugh. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.